Good day, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of After the Blog. Hey, this is Rod Trent, your host once again, and I wanted to, because obviously this series is about blogs that have already been written, I did want to provide some additional context to a blog post that I wrote earlier today entitled Alert, Threat Intelligence Indicator Table Retirement. This is kind of super important. I have come to understand that many of our customers may have missed the original email from Microsoft, which is what predicated my blog post. All right. So if you are one of those that missed it, or if you just like additional context, or if for whatever reason you just like to hear my voice, this episode is for you. So here's the short and tall of it. We have had this threat intelligence indicator table within Microsoft Sentinel for the longest time, right? So this is the table that you can use KQL against to create analytics rules, to create some visualizations and workbooks, and do a multitude of other things with the data that exists within that table. For our threat intelligence indicators that are supplied by Microsoft. All right. Super valuable. However, just like all things, not all, all good things don't last forever. And so I did want to make you aware of this so you did not miss out. So, all right, here's how this works. And I'll provide the link to the blog post in the show notes so that you can take a look at this yourself, bookmark it so you don't lose the information. But if you're currently using this existing table to provide data intelligence to your analytics rules and workbooks and other things, you literally have just a couple months to make some adjustments or changes to how you're doing this currently. All right. On April 3rd, that's coming up quick. It's tomorrow if you're listening to this podcast on the day it was released. Two new tables, Threat Intel Objects and Threat Intel Indicators, two tables are going to be made available in public preview on April 3rd. And this is going to give you, hopefully, enough time to migrate your existing collateral, your rules, your workbooks, all that stuff that you have custom built. Going to enable you to migrate all that stuff to these existing two tables. All right. General availability for these two new tables, again, Threat Intel Objects and Threat Intel Indicators, is scheduled for May 31st of this year. All right. After July 31st of this year, the original Threat Intelligence Indicator table will no longer see data population. All of the data in there will be split into these two tables. All right. So you don't have to necessarily convert everything right away, but if you don't, you're not going to see any data or be able to take advantage of the data that exists for that threat indicator value. Now, the original threat intelligence indicator table, it will officially, retire on May 31st, 2026. All right, so data ingest, stop data ingestion, and it will sit there kind of as a husk of its former self until May 31st, 2026. All right, so keep that in mind. It's kind of super important. So let's walk through this timeline together, how this is actually going to work, just so you're super aware. And again, check out the blog post because it's all there, including the original Microsoft email that so many, for some reason, may have missed. I think in a lot of cases, maybe the original Microsoft Sentinel administrator or those people in charge of that things may have moved on to other things, or maybe they're and someone else is not checking that inbox, or I don't know. There's probably a multitude of reasons. Not blaming anyone, but again, super important to understand. So here's the timeline of this table transition. April 3rd, 2025. We've already mentioned this. Tomorrow, right? The public preview of these two brand new tables, Threat Intel Objects and Threat Intel Indicators, will be available to both existing and new customers. So if you're an existing Microsoft Sentinel customer, they're going to show up. Might already even have started to sync across the different tenants. I'm not sure. You'll just need to check your Sentinel environment. Any new Microsoft Sentinel customers, as soon as they stand up Microsoft Sentinel, these two new tables, or they won't be new to them, I guess. These two tables will exist automatically. All right. Additionally, let's see. What's next? Right. The next part of the timeline, general availability, or GA, for these two tables will be May 31st, 2025. All right. So that's a very quick from public preview to general availability, right? Because we're super serious about making these or adjusting these and making these changes. This is going to provide better efficiency and ensure that this works so much better. Good buddy of mine, Sridhar, I'll also include his blog in the show notes for this, talks about the new Stix objects that will be included in these tables, including things like actors, attack patterns, identities, and relationships, in addition to the indicators of compromise. All right, next part of the timeline, July 31st, 2025, data ingestion will transition exclusively to the new tables. The legacy Threat Intelligence Indicator table and its data will remain accessible, but no new data will be ingested there. All right, so you have some time to make these changes. For those organizations that have made lots and lots of custom things and changes, I feel for you a little bit, but now is the time to get that project in place, do the inventory, identify the things that need to be altered and changed, and you have plenty of time to do that. All right. The next date on the timeline, and I mentioned that just a bit ago, is May 31st, 2026, and that is when the Threat Intelligence Indicator, the old table support, will officially retire, along with ingestion for those who opted in to dual ingestion beyond July 31st, 2026. So that's it. So the recommendation or the ask from Microsoft is please try as much as possible transition to the new tables by July 31st, 2025 to avoid any service disruptions such as non-functional analytics rules, workbooks, or just some of your general KQL queries or the other things that you have created custom in your environment. All right. You can tell if these things exist, or you can tell potentially those impacted resources in either Microsoft Sentinel or the Unified Defender portal. There's some ways to do that. You can actually go in the Azure portal, go to Microsoft Sentinel, select the workspace in the navigation pane in the general section. You go to the logs like you're familiar with when you go to create KQL queries, open the table list and search for the Threat Intelligence Indicator. All right. You'll be able to see in there some of those impacted resources based on that. And then in Defender portal, it's very similar. In the navigation pane, go to Investigation Response, open Hunting, click on Advanced Hunting, and then search for the Threat Intelligence Indicator table in the schema view. All right. And again, I'll include the blog posts that are applicable or important for your knowledge in the show notes for this After the Blog episode. All right. So that's it. Thought it was important enough to create a podcast episode 4, just in case you might have missed out. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your attention to this matter, particularly for the Microsoft Sentinel and Defender people, but also, hey, those KQL superheroes that exist out there. Thank you so much. We will talk again soon.